Hello, I'm Kate Champion. I'm a director. I work across multiple art forms: theatre, dance, opera, musical theatre, circus. I was also the founding artistic director of the dance theatre company Force Majeure. For me, experimentation is at the heart of art making, really. It's kind of essential, particularly working in original work or devised work. There's, always the expression, there's nothing new under the sun, but at the same time, you are an individual, every person is unique, and so every person coming together to look at something, to create something new, will always be a new voice, a different way of looking at something, and that excites me and keeps me going as an artist, that kind of relevance and being in the moment of where we are in our society, in our culture, and being able to signify that and to reflect it and to question it. I've never stuck to one way of working, and I guess even though I did work with my own company for 13 years, I've also straddled a lot of other experiences with larger companies, commercial works, festivals, solo work, fringe, experimental, and I think that's kept me challenged as an artist and always aware of circumstances outside my comfort zone and outside the bubble of people that I'm more familiar with. And I think that's incredibly important as an artist and as a human being, that we understand outside our more closer borders, and that we understand the full makeup of society and experiences beyond our own. Yeah, I've worked with an interesting range of performers. I mean, in dance, there's quite an emphasis on the body beautiful, and I found that a bit frustrating in that I didn't feel it was truly representative of society. And so eventually I started making work with a wider age range, a wider ability range. I worked with fat dancers, with pregnant acrobats, with people with disability, with the elderly, and it just truly inhabited, the full breadth of society, which is what I became an artist for in the first place, was to have a sense of representation and my part in creatively contributing to that representation. So I think for me it's a vital contribution to how we perceive ourselves as a society. Look, I've never thought of my work as political, although when I made the piece Nothing to Lose with fat dancers, it was pointed out to me that simply putting a fat body on stage, particularly in a dance context, was a political act. I think if that's the case, then I make political work. But I think a lot of the strongest political work for me has been made because someone's had a passion or an interest, a fire to put a point across, and then that, if you want, can be perceived as political work. I think it's, for me, when something gets under my skin, when there's something that either irritates me or fascinates me or brings up a curiosity, then I'll be compelled to use that subject matter to make work, and that can often be perceived as political. I've been supported throughout my career through a lot of funding avenues, particularly the Australia Council and state funding bodies. I was given travel grants when I was very young, and that was quite inspiring and informative, and was able to let me see how I work in Australia in a more objective way. Even though I was advised to stay in Europe or America or the UK, I was determined to come back to Australia and make work in the culture that I grew up in. I find that incredibly important, and useful. I think there's something about everything that's gone from your earliest memory to now, and everything that has informed you as a human being and therefore an artist, then informs the work that contributes to the fabric and the culture of the country you were born in or grew up in or came to understand as the country that you call home. Look, I should be rehearsing a play as I speak to you. This would have been the first week of rehearsal, and that's been cancelled due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and that's incredibly disappointing because a lot of work and preparation goes into putting on a play way before the first day of rehearsal. There's years, in fact, and that's hard to take, but at the same time, I think anyone who's creative can use this time for reflection and in reinvention and a way of coming out of this with kind of a fresh vision. But at the same time, I'm terribly concerned about the future and how we'll be able to perform in theatres with an audience, which is why live theatre is what it is. It's in the moment, and it's never the same twice in front of that specific audience that it's done for. All living and breathing and hearts beating in the same moment, and how we will deal with that concerns me, but I have hope that this too will pass and that we'll come out stronger for it. I am very concerned, incredibly concerned about all the artists that don't have financial support at this time, because we often lived hand to mouth, and therefore times like this can really send some people under to the point where they're not able to survive as artists anymore. Democracy or culture without art, or democracy without culture, for me, it's like a human body without breath. That answers the question. It's like death. It's boring without it's what interests me in being human. It's how I connect to other humans. I didn't have a religious upbringing, and so art and culture is where I've found that common humanity that often people draw or receive from experiencing gathering as a religion. So for me, it would be a grey place. It would be, it would be like death. So it helps me breathe. It helps me want to get up in the morning. It makes me understand viewpoints of my fellow humans that I wouldn't be able to understand without the vehicle of culture and art.